Yesterday's announcement to further expand the partnership between South Dakota law enforcement and ICE initiatives is tonight being met with questions by those who claim to be racially profiled in the state as they go about their daily lives. Tonight, Beth Warden hears from those with concerns about Operation Prairie Thunder and from those running for governor to get their response as well. It's our 5:30 top story tonight.
In July of 2025, Governor Larry Roden announced the partnership between state law enforcement and ICE operations. Yesterday, Roden announced the number of ICE-trained troopers is growing, first with 5 troopers, then 17, and now 41. Roden says the operation is keeping our state strong, safe, and free for generations to come. And now there's more work to do. Those on the receiving end of what they believe is racial profiling have concerns.
And are they thinking about having to carry their passport around so that they're not detained by immigration enforcement? If you're not, you're very privileged, because that's a conversation I know many U.S. citizens who are brown and black are having.
Denisa Islam says ICE operations look different in South Dakota.
Immigration enforcement does not look like Minneapolis or LA. What it looks like is sobriety checkpoints or snatch and grabs from parking lots. People are literally getting snatched out of a running truck at a gas station and taken away, with the truck still running and everyone like, what just happened?
I asked those running for governor about their thoughts on the increased number of ICE-trained state agents. Toby Doden says we will send a message across the country that South Dakota is the last place criminals want to be. Anyone that peddles poison to our children or perpetrates violent acts on our families will find the hammer of the law coming down on their head. Democrat Dan Allers responds, Governor Roden's announcement appears to be focused more on additional training and continuation of existing enforcement partnerships. At the same time, I take issue with a rhetoric that broadly characterizes undocumented immigrants as criminals. And Dusty Johnson focuses on the border and immigration. This month marks 12 straight months without an illegal crossing at our southern border. Enforcing our nation's immigration laws will go a long way to improve the safety of our communities, and I'm glad the state is taking this step. Islam offers a meeting for all candidates
who have not talked to someone who has been impacted by a loved one being detained or deported to meet with them. You can reach out to us and we will connect you with those people, because they are scared. They're not going to call the governor's office.
In Sioux Falls, Beth Warden, Dakota News Now.